Hi everybody, I'm Chad Cool for Northland Outdoors. Welcome to Mille Lacs Lake, Minnesota's giant walleye producing factory. But despite this lake's long and storied history as an angling destination, over the last 10 or 15 years or so, it's been also the center of one of the biggest outdoor controversies and economic controversies in the upper Midwest. And it all centers on one thing: Minnesota's state fish, the walleye.
When it comes to walleye, Mille Lacs Lake remains a mystery to nearly everyone involved in this curious biological, political, and economic problem. It's been more than a decade since biologists first raised alarms that there was a serious problem with the Mille Lacs walleye population. Those fears were unavoidably intertwined with the tricky political puzzle of a more than 100-year-old treaty with local Native American tribes. A treaty that allows those tribes to net and remove thousands of pounds of walleye annually. But the inevitable crash of the walleye population never seemed to happen. At least not as indicated by an angler's ability to find and catch fish.
There we go. Decent fish here. Now, this is nice. Take a look at that one. Now, this is the problem that Mille Lacs is going through right now. When a guy can come out here, any angler, and they've been doing it, and you can have probably your best walleye fishing day of your life. Guys are out here catching 40, 50, 60 fish in a day and more, which makes it really difficult to explain why we have such restrictive harvest limitations. That is a beautiful, beautiful fish right there. Now here's the Mille Lacs dilemma. That is a beautiful walleye. Any other lake in the state, we would call this an incredible eater. But here in Mille Lacs, he's got to go home. You can't keep any fish on Mille Lacs this year, and in fact, they're going to close fishing even to catch and release in midsummer.
The question is why? It's a question asked by every angler catching more walleyes than they ever have, and asked by the resorts and businesses whose economic well-being is directly connected to Mille Lacs walleye. And it's even asked by the biologists who are making these difficult decisions. Despite the incredible catch rates, the data does show a problem with this walleye population. While some year classes are thriving, others seem to be nearly non-existent. Biologists first thought it might be a spawning problem, that walleyes simply weren't laying enough eggs and hatching enough fry. So 4 years ago, the DNR conducted a unique study. For the first time ever, biologists netted and gathered eggs from spawning Mille Lacs walleye. They hatched those eggs and then stocked the fry back into the lake. But every one of those fry was given a unique biological ID card.
So what we did is we stocked 10 million fry into Mille Lacs in 2016, 2017, and 2018. And those fry were marked with a chemical called oxytetracycline. What it does is it leaves a mark on the bony structures of the fish. And then what we can do later on in the year, during the fall, we went in and we started looking for fish of that age group. And if you look at the bony structures under a certain wavelength of light, what you can see is it actually gets a fluorescent green ring glowing there. And so then you know that that fish was a marked fish. And you look at the ratio of marked fish to unmarked fish that we examined. And then you looked at the number of fish that we caught and also the number of fish that we marked. And what we can do then is we can come up with a number of fry that were actually produced naturally within the lake that spring. And what we found is that in 2016 we produced about 8,000 fry per what we call a littoral acre, which is that part of the lake that's less than 15 feet deep. In 2017 I think we produced 11 or 12,000, and in 2018 we produced like 18,000 fry per littoral acre. Those numbers tell us that there's plenty of fry being produced in the lake. Just for reference, What that means is that normally when we stock lakes, okay, we stock lakes all over Minnesota that, that don't have adequate fry production. And our normal stocking guidelines are anywhere from 500 to 1,000 fry per liter of acre. And so we're producing up to 18,000 fry per liter of acre. That means that our spawning stock biomass is just fine. It's not short.
So we've got plenty of baby walleyes every spring, but something is happening from the time those fry hatch to when they reach a mature age. During this time, when a walleye is no bigger than a minnow and up to 4 to 6 inches in length, they, like all other small fish, are considered food. Under normal conditions, that's not a big problem because there are plenty of other small fish like yellow perch and minnow species for larger fish to eat. Enter the zebra mussel, another complicated piece in this tricky biological puzzle.
We have to keep in mind that we've got zebra mussels in the lake, and what they're going to do is they're going to reduce the overall amount of resources that are available to walleye. And I think what we're seeing now is we're seeing a bit of an example of that with the skinny fish that we've got going on out here. There's just not as much forage being produced for those fish. And when you don't have a lot of forage produced, the concern is that that the bigger, older walleye are starting to eat down the younger walleye as they're coming up.
In the end, despite all the political questions regarding Native American netting, the economic impacts of businesses closing, and the odd fact that walleye fishing has never been better on Mille Lacs, the overall situation remains pretty much the same. And that is, even after all this time, no one, be it the politicians, the business owners, or the biologists, nobody really has any concrete answers to the Mille Lacs walleye mystery.
The climate down here has really gotten more political compared to the science of what's the best for the lake, and that's probably the sad part of what's going on. There's a lot of different pieces of what's going on with Mille Lacs as far as why we can't keep fish. With the increased invasive species, the young of the year fish not being able to grow up past year 2. For some reason, they're dying out. There's a lot of things that are going on with it, and the political stuff on top of that. So as far as the number of fish that are in the lake right now, we're just about right on average. So why we're not keeping any, is anybody's guess, I guess. But
in one way, you could look at this as a huge experiment, and these are the results of what you can achieve if you really limit the amount of harvest that you put on a fish population. And, I'm not saying that that's something that everyone is going to enjoy. There's a lot of people that like to eat walleye. And, and so obviously they're disappointed, but there's also, a group of people out there that enjoy coming up for the very high catch rates and the good size structure.
For a long time, we've been preaching or talking about this 2013 year class for walleye. Well, these fish right now are 19 to 20 and a half inches. They're beautiful fish. I think they said about 40% of our walleye in the lake right now are about that size. So it's a lot of fun. You're talking about a 3-pound walleye, and that's going to give you a nice fight right on through. And there's all kinds of fish in that 24 to 26, 27 inches. That just makes for a very memorable experience.
Ooh, another nice fish. I tell you what, Mille Lacs has definitely been the center of controversy in the walleye world for the last 10 or 15 years. And I don't care what side you fall on. There are positives and negatives in both places. But honestly, folks, the fact of the matter is, if you truly love walleye fishing, there's still no better place in the world than Mille Lacs Lake.